Hello, everyone. We are here again on the RTV radio show. I'm here with my co-host, Brother Nance. How you feeling today? Checking
Full
in.
tide. I'm here.
Yeah, so on Monday is a little tiresome, but we're here. We're gonna kind of do something different. We're gonna talk about some things that are going on in our city, of course. The biggest thing for me is schools and violence. We wanted to talk about those two things. We know last week we had a great guest that came on. We were talking about everything COVID. And it also just made me want to talk about, are the schools really ready to open? What are your thoughts on that? So, and then also the violence. So, what we're going to do today, not specifically a special guest, but we're going to try to get some interaction, hopefully, from our audience, our listeners. So, one, I need you to share this video, to know we're going to be talking about either rather school or the violence, and we want some intake. We want some input from everybody. That either you can put it in the message, or you can come on and you can do a round table with us. But with the school, there are schools that parents are having a hard time. They don't know, are schools really ready and prepared with the COVID cases going up, right? And then we have another, in my opinion, pandemic with the violence in our city. We've had multiple for this particular week alone. We've had so many shootings and homicides that we have to address this pandemic that we are dealing with. Just recently, a post came out, or not a post, but an article that a 15-year-old Janai, I hope I'm not pronouncing her name wrong, Whedon, she was shot last week and she died recently. The headline was that she was shot in the back of her head and she was around a group of people, and yet no one, they left her at the scene, fighting for her life. No one, they were even, police department was trying to identify her. So this is like really bad in my sense. So we're talking about our youth and we're talking about the violence, and I think the two goes hand in hand that we need to talk about today. Are our students safe rather in school with COVID, or the violence? Like, let's talk about that, Brother Nance. You work in a school system. Let's talk about that. Whoever's on, what are your thoughts? What do you think the solutions are? What do you think the problems are? What are the root causes? What can we do to help those that are in position, to change certain policies, or just to do anything? What is needed?
Well, I feel like, I've been saying this for a minute, but I feel like unhealed adults is the reason why our children are messed up, why our community is messed up. There's a lot of unhealed adults out here raising children, or shall I say, cohabitating with their children. You know what I mean? You got a lot of youth that's out here damn near taking care of themselves, and their back is against the wall. Like, I don't condone violence, but you got to realize a lot of this stuff is retaliatory. A lot of this stuff is inner fighting amongst each other. You know what I mean? You got gang members in the same gang killing each other and shit. Like, so it's again, I mean, it's not one thing, it's a variety of things. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't just put it on education, you can't just put it on the parents, you can't just put it on the community, you can't just put it on social influences and all that. It's a combination of everything. I just think the fabric of people not really caring about human life and humanity itself. If you don't have self-love, why the fuck would you even care about anyone else? If you don't even really love yourself, you know what I'm saying? It's like, if you think everybody's against you, the world is against you, the school system tells you you're not going to be nothing, the TV says you're a problem, the music says you're a problem, no one loves you. Like, they're not getting their natural birthright, which is love, to be loved on. Even if you didn't have a parent household, you had love from your aunties, your grandmother, your grandfathers, other people in your neighborhood, and your family, and your community. Things have changed. That's why I was telling people, like, a few weeks ago when I was having a conversation with a few brothers, I was like, we spend so much time talking about, well, my generation and our generation had this, our generation. Yo, okay. What are you going to, how are you going to help what they're dealing with? They're dealing with something totally different than what we were dealing with. So how can we take the lessons and energy that we learned that was poured into us, those that are 35 and over, to really pour into meeting these young people where they are and seeing how we can support them navigate this cluster or shit show at which they're living in with the education system, the pandemic, and just all the things that they're dealing with. So I don't think, again, that it's one thing that you can say. I just think violence is a mindset. You know, I think violence is a mindset. I don't think no one wants to wake up. I don't think no one is born a killer. Like, you don't wake up like, I'm a killer. You know what I mean? Like, do everyone have a like, if someone comes in my home or I need to defend myself, I know how to defend myself. But I'm not out here looking for violence. I'm not out here thinking about violence. I don't even, like, unless you told me what was going on, Angie, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? And I choose that. I choose that way though. I choose that way because I'm unplugged because I'm doing the work trying to save the youth that I can save, the 5 or so that are working at my cafe. You know what I mean? I'm trying to save them. I can't save everybody. I can only worry about the folks that I can affect in my little part of the world. And I think if everybody really took the time to really focus on a small group, we trying to solve a whole problem. And you can't. You know what I mean? Unless you stopping guns coming into the community. And unless you stopping guns, you ain't stopping no violence. Unless you stopping drug dealing and drug selling, you're not stopping violence. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, to be honest with you, like my son was talking the other day and he was asking me, like, he said, Dave, well, how do you think it'd be if like they made all drugs legal? Like I was like, what you mean? So like a person could walk in CVS and say, oh yeah, let me get some crack, let me get a little bit of heroin, and let me get a line of coke up in the CVS or Walgreens, right? So then he was like, well, Dad, then, you know, it's sort of like with dispensaries. Like, yeah, we got dispensaries, but you still have illegal weed selling because people like the relationships they have with their dealers. You know what I'm saying? To be honest with you. So for me, I mean, I don't know what, I brought it up to say, like, I don't know what could stop it. You know what I mean? Lack of resources, yes, I can agree. Access to funding, I can agree. You know what I mean? But sometimes, you know what I think the biggest enemy is, though? Ourselves. I think that we do have funding, we do have programs, but the programs are not working.
Scarce resources causes tension. Thank you. That's the plainest Jane. I hope I said it correctly. Feel free to continue to put the comments in, or if you want the link to even come on in as a round table, you feel free to do that as well. We would love your input. Sorry, brother Nance. You know, when I see people, when I see people interacting, I love to make sure I let them know we see you and we hear you.
Yeah, so, no, you good. No, I mean, that's all I was saying. I'm just saying there's a lot of things that contribute to that, but I think the number one thing is, you know, we got to build the character up of our people. You know what I mean? We need to. It ain't just about resources. I think the number one problem is, you know, we have a lot of people working not together and working against each other. You know what I mean? And I think that if we had more concentrated efforts put towards, or funding centered towards those that are actually doing the work, you know, people shouldn't be out here begging for money if you actually have a 10 to 5 year proof of record that you've been doing this work and changing lives. So I don't think I think the violence and education goes together. But I think they're two different fights. I think that the education fight is a fight that we should be focusing more on, because the lack of education, that means we're breeding the next wave of killers. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So if we focus on the education, they said, are Baltimore City schools really ready to open up for the fall semester? I mean, I think they as ready as they can get, to be honest with you. I mean, I think that right now, I think people need to just get mentally prepared to come back to school. I think that Parents need to be really managing expectations for their children and not allowing virtual learning to be used as an excuse for failure. I think that, I mean, I think virtual learning is awesome, personally. You know what I mean? But I understand why some people struggle in it. You know what I mean? But I know that we have to teach our kids that, what you learn in school, that's teaching you how to think and how to do things. What you do at home on your own, no one should make you read a book. Like, I don't think you made your daughter read books, the one that just graduated college. I don't think you had to be like, I need you to read a book every day. I mean, if you did, that's cool. But I don't think that you forced her or made her, like, she wanted to be an educator. So she knew the things that she needed to do at home on her own to get where she needed to be. And I think that we put so much pressure and energy on the schools that we think the school's supposed to be raising our children, and that's not what schools are designed for. They're not there to raise children. They're there to educate and teach your children how to think, how to develop processes, how to understand, how to navigate the world through just the English and mathematics and things of that nature. So, I think that the problem is parents, younger parents, just to be specific, send their kids to school thinking that the school is the grandmother. You know what I mean? Like, the school is now the grandmother because the grandmother is either 40 or 38. You know what I mean? So, and school is now the grandfather or the grandmother. So they want us to raise the kids. And schools are not for that. I tell my students and parents that all the time. Like, what you do at home is where you're going to determine where you go at, not what you do in school. You know what I mean? That's just a small piece of the pie.
So I know that some of the I would say the advocates for opening up schools, reopening schools, were saying that the violence could be linked, or just, I would say, the youth getting into trouble is linked to not having that school and that foundation available for them. So I can kind of see that, but in the same token, I feel like these were still opportunities for our young people to still could have gotten in trouble, rather the schools were in session or not, or virtual or in person. But I do know that was part of the discussion, that this was probably a part of some uptick in the violence as well, especially when it comes to our young people. But what we have to understand is that even when we look at some of the violence, it's not to say, oh, all of these are coming from your young people that's causing it. I mean, so I wanted to make sure when I spoke about it, I pushed back on that, because what you're not going to do is try to put that into a window of saying these are our youth that are, doing that. But I just want
it's the adults out here killing.
Yeah, there's been a lot
of 30-year-olds. It's the 30-year-olds and 29 and 40-year-olds.
Yeah, I'm gonna say a little under me, but seeing some people that even my age. So I wanted to kind of say that was, like, for me, in my opinion, a stereotype. But could it also be that they have no safe haven and that they are becoming victims? And so it goes back to,
or could it be the brothers that got locked up in the 80s and 90s just coming home and trying to get their spot back, and the young niggas like, nah, bro, this ain't your wave. We don't know. I'm not a street guy, so I don't know what's going on the street. You know what I'm saying? I have friends and people that's in that world, yes, but I don't even talk to them about that world, because that's not the world I'm focused on. You know what I mean? Like, even though I know it's something that's a priority, I try not to live in that world, because it will consume you. You know what I mean? Trying to figure it out, like trying to figure out why. You know what I mean? I think that, again, the lack of compassion and the imbalance. People dodge fucked up out here too. We're not eating right. We're not getting rest. So you're making irrational decisions. I guarantee you, if we interviewed any of the young people that got arrested, that committed these heinous crimes, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, like the one boy that threw the shit through the window and set the house on fire, the one kid that I forgot the dude that killed somebody, I can guarantee you that they regret that. That moment wasn't worth the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? Well, like, I mean, to me, nothing is that serious. Unless somebody trying to take your life, you know what I mean? Or you feel threatened, that's something totally different. But to be killing people over money, territory, things that you can get back, to me, that shit is stupid. You know what I mean?
You mentioned lack of compassion, and I want to just speak on that. I really so like wholeheartedly believe that there's a lot of lack of compassion, and it's for so many reasons. And you also mentioned about just retaliation. There are people that are hurting,
Yeah.
mentally they're
Yes.
going through a lot. And
Yes.
so, hey, you killed my brother. I am hurt and I want someone else to hurt. And as you just said, it's just a deadly cycle. So the lack of compassion could be more so involuntary from the hurt and the pain that they've gone through, and not having that mental
And then on
aspect of
top of that, you're
rest.
doing drugs. You're
Yeah,
doing drugs and
and
drinking, and then you
drugs,
sitting
like you
around
said,
thinking, and you thinking
yes,
like, yo, that
not
motherfucker killed
eating
my
right,
brother.
not
And
eating
and you
right,
know what's
not
so sad?
resting.
And you know what else too, Angie? I didn't mean to cut you off. You know what else
Yeah,
too?
you
I
always
want to
cut
make
me
a point.
off.
No, but I want to make a point on what you were saying. The part that
I'm
be
trying to
hurting them
make a
the
whole
most
point.
is no, but you know what? The part I think that hurts the people the most, young, old, or whatever, half of the time they be knowing who killed the person.
So let me
They
just say, so you just made a good point. I really believe that a lot of people know, well, I'll say a
they
lot.
know who be killing these
There's
people.
quite a
You know who
few.
kill who.
There's quite a few that know who. And so here's the question. It goes back to the 15-year-old, and I will not say her name, just for the sake of families and what they're going through.
Right,
But I
right,
said in
right,
the
right, right,
beginning,
right.
but the 15-year-old, like you just said, she was around a group of people that literally left her knowing that she was shot in her head and that she was alone. And yet
But y'all her friend.
they
But
know
y'all her
who did
friend.
it. They know. I'm sure it wasn't just a random person that came into the crowd. I'm sure someone knows something out of that. They said it was about 15 other people in there off of probably a camera that they saw, but they just couldn't see. It was dark. And so you know who did it. But here's the question for everyone, you, whomever's listening: what is making them not say something? So it be that I'm afraid that someone's going to retaliate against me. I heard the snitches get stitches, that mentality. Like, what's making us not really speak up to know what's right? Like that poor young
Because we
lady,
got
she was left to die, and no one said anything a week later. And yet we know it's on their conscience. We know that they saw something.
yeah, they I mean, the lack of empathy is it's for them to leave their friend there to die by herself. No one probably called the police, nothing. I'm just I don't know what happened, so I don't want to assume. But I'm just saying that just shows, that says a lot. You know what I mean? That
And it's not
you
just
know
that particular one. This is so many cases. People just don't want to be involved. Hey, I'm a mind my
well,
own
people don't
business.
want to
I
be
know
involved because people are afraid for their own damn life.
they are
And
they
they know
are
that the
afraid.
police is not going to protect
So
them from the killers. The
so
killers got
and
more
that's what I was
power
gonna
than
say.
the
So
police.
yeah, I was gonna say they're afraid because maybe they feel as though they're not gonna be protected by the police department, or the person's not gonna be, convicted and prosecuted by the state's attorneys or whatever. I'm just saying the legal system. So people just they don't have that much hope in our system, right? I
Well,
mean, that's
I'm gonna tell you this: if I saw somebody, me and you out and about, and I seen who did something to you, God forbid, I'm not going to
listen,
be.
y'all better have a
No, listen what I'm saying. I'm not going to be like,
y'all better have
yo,
uprising
I
on
don't
you.
know who did it because I want my own justice. No,
Y'all better be in the streets.
Mike Smith did that. That nigga live on. He drive a black car. I don't care. I'm not no rat because I'm doing what's right. I'm telling what's right. You know what I mean? Like I told somebody, like if something ever happened to me in the school community that I work at, it ain't keeping it real by not telling who did what they did to me. You know what I mean? To me, that's some sucker shit. You know what I mean? Like that's sucker behavior. You know what I mean? Especially if it's an innocent bystander. Now the code of the streets, I can't talk about all that. But if it's an innocent bystander and you know who killed that innocent bystander, by your godly obligation to say something. It ain't about no street code. Like there's a godly obligation that you know. And the sad part about it is some of the people, some of the parents know that they are housing the killer. You know what your kids out here doing in these streets.
Yeah.
But then when they get caught, oh, it was the system. It was he's such a good kid. No, yo, no, no. And it's not. I want to switch it. I want to switch it off the kids because I don't believe all the youth are doing the killing. I think it's more
Yeah.
grown ass men doing the
Yeah,
killing than the youth.
I only brought that up is because that's what the school system was trying to say. Like, let's open these schools because they're, causing some of this.
Man, they can open the schools. The schools need to get themselves together because you can be bringing people back to school to more confusion and chaos.
Yeah. So there was an article that came out. I'm trying to find the one last week, but it had about, I don't know, almost 20 shootings within a week span. But this one from yesterday, I just want to read. So I'm still looking for the other article. But this one just from yesterday. Yesterday's article, it says 2 shootings within 30 minutes on the evening of August 15th bring the number of people shot in Baltimore to 6. 2 of the shooting victims are dead. And so I have to say that we're just talking about yesterday. It says 6 shot in 6 hours. I'm not even talking about the whole week. This here is, and I hate to use the word is a crisis, but this here is like out of control to the point where we're not hearing from anyone. Not to say that you got to say something, but at least address it, at least acknowledge it, at least show us that you are trying to do something. Our public safety chair. I don't know who needs to say something. I'm willing to do. Have something to have them come on. Actually, I might even send the invite. But what can be done for us to all work together? I'm not here to be pointing fingers or say what someone should have done, what they could have done. I'm saying it's out of control and it's so scary to the point where you don't even want to try to, if you go outside. Like yesterday, I had to unplug. You mentioned about unplugging and not seeing these things.
I don't know what's going on.
I had to unplug to the point where I could not even like read another one. And some of this stuff just comes on because I don't watch the news. I don't know the last time I watched the news.
I don't even know what channel the news.
Of course it comes on your news feed. Of course, sometimes I may not even look at it on the news feed. Somebody may have sent it to me because they just know how involved I am. And so what I'm saying is that we cannot have this lack of compassion and empathy and being numb to the fact that this is not a norm. And even though, even though there was fatality, but even if there weren't, like there are people fighting for their life every day from being shot. So that to me is alarming, and we got to find a way to actually do that. So if anyone is on, I haven't looked to make sure if any other
Sylvia made a good comment.
Sylvia I didn't read it, or maybe our producer can put it back up on the screen.
Sylvia made a comment.
There we go. People
have become numb to other people's problems. The lack of responsibility, responsible policy is one of the biggest problems. Ever since HBO filmed The Wire here, lawlessness was birthed with a green light. That's facts.
That is all facts. Hi, Mama Harris. Mama Harris, I want to shout you out. Listen, even if you want to come on, you can do that. But Mama Harris, this is the late Councilman Kenneth Harris's mother. She knows what it's like. She knows the fight, and she knows what solutions are needed, and what are some of the problems. She's lived a long time to know that. And we have to listen to one another. We have to have everybody at the table, new, young, old. We have to have everyone seasoned, in positions, out of position, grassroots. We have to have everyone. It says it takes a village. And that's what we need. Some of this stuff is, some people don't even want to work with you because they might feel like, you're their competition, or, it may make them look a certain way. Come on, we have to get past all of that and work together as a community because we are losing. I don't care how many events you have or what you're giving away in the community. We are losing, and it's hurtful. So, Ms. Harris, thank you so much, for that, and for continuing to be in the fight, continuing to give your input. And it's all facts. What she said is very much true. We need to change some of the policing, what she was saying, the policies.
We're very distracted as people too. Black people are easily distracted.
Yeah,
we're easily distracted about and not focus on the real problem. We focus on everything else. versus battles and stuff like that, which I watch them too. I'm not gonna sit up there and say I didn't watch the versus battle.
Is it the versus
I mean,
battle?
I understand,
I haven't
like, but
watched any of them.
that's not my whole life focus. You dig what I'm saying? Like, I
Yeah,
don't get caught up in all of the propaganda and the distractions
yeah.
that are put in front
Hmm.
of us. I mean, because when you get distracted, then you start getting comfortable again. We should never be comfortable as
Yeah,
brown people in America. Like, we are too
yeah.
comfortable sitting up in our silos, and because you got cable and a good car, you think you made it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, that's not what's up.
Yeah.
Because your kids get educated well and someone else is not. That's why I said, like, at this point,
Hmm.
if you're still out in the streets and you hustling and that means you are getting satisfaction. You're benefiting off destroying someone else. How is that
Hmm.
slick? How is that power? How is that? How do you even sleep at night? That's why I never was
Yeah.
interested in drug dealing. I was like, yo, I cannot see me destroying someone else's life to make my pockets fat. Don't
Yeah.
even make sense. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So I'm sorry for all
Yeah.
the language today, Diamond K, but I mean, it's so
Look.
frustrating and annoying. I mean, it's so annoying because, like, until you get to the root cause of things, like, you always gonna have these problems. I mean, violence been around forever. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it
Like,
has.
violence is what shaped and carved America. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the violent land, like
So,
this land,
yeah.
violent.
So just to make it so perfectly clear, we're not sitting here and saying it happened because of a certain administration or this particular year or who's president now. Like, no, this thing has been going on for so long before we were born.
How America was established.
So let's
Violent.
let's make that very clear. Like, this is again, not to shame no one, not to point fingers. All we're saying is how can we we do have someone, oh good, that just want to come to the round table. Come on over. So we have Dr. Berkeley. As we talked about mental health, he's a doctor here that can talk about also, and he's been on our show as our guest, is my brother, Dr. Kyle Berkeley. He can give us some expertise on when it comes to the violence and what it, how it affects our mental. And even we talked about, brother Nance, how some of this violence is coming about because of people hurting, and they say hurt people, right? So Dr. Berkeley, thank you for coming on, and
Thank you
being
for
our guest for today, coming to the table.
the invitation. Thank you,
Yes.
Angie. Thank you, brother Nance. Great seeing you all tonight.
Look at that. Baltimore matters. I like that. Let me see that
I'm
shirt.
about
Let
to
me
say,
see
I
that
like
shirt.
that shirt, Brody.
Yeah, I need that shirt. Baltimore, and look, you got the right shirt for the right topic. Baltimore does matter, guys. Come on, we
Thank you.
cannot give up. I'm about to be the cheerleader on this Monday. So Dr. Berkeley, can you talk about, like, what is your insight about this violence and how it is affecting, like, the mental aspect of the community? What's needed, anything to that nature. I would love to hear your perspective on that.
It's multifaceted, actually. There's a lot that impacts it, right? There's the whole social economic impact of it. I'll get into. We have multiple food deserts in this city. A lot of them in my community, right? So you have the multiple food deserts that impacts health, and poor outlooks. You have the education challenges. Uh, Angie, you and I have talked offline plenty of times in the past as far as issues with the school board and stuff like that.
Mm,
Um, so you have that aspect. You have the employment aspect, which is a major problem. You have jobs but not gainful employment in the city.
mm,
um, Baltimore is historically a blue collar town, but we have a blue collar town that doesn't really cater to its blue collar workers anymore. When we've
mm.
seen Bethlehem Steel and Domino's go downhill from here, we've seen the employment market just change.
Yeah.
I talk to a lot about my friend. Well, I talk to my friends a lot about. I was in high school. I graduated in 2001, and back then $15 an hour was a lot of money for a person in high
Yeah.
school to get a job and work. Flash forward, now it's 2021,
Mm,
and the same amount is still considered a lot of money to be working, and we're being force fed to be and told, oh well, $15 an hour should be at least minimum wage. Like, excuse me, what? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I could think back 2000, 2001, bread was like what, 15 cent a loaf, and now I look over like, no, milk was like 60, 70 cent a gallon, and now you flash forward, it's almost $4 for a gallon of milk. But you're telling me
Say it
that
again.
with that inflation, that this is
Yeah.
suitable. You look at
Yeah.
generations of people that live in the same house, and the great grandmothers raising multiple generations of kids, and so it's a lot of things that compact the violence in the city.
Yes.
And I say all that because what is the positive outlook? Like,
Mm-hmm.
where's the pull yourself up? Like, I'll
Yeah.
use a term that a lot of my people on the right would say, which is pull yourself up by the bootstraps. But where the hell are the bootstraps?
Right.
like,
Right.
like, and it seems like it's like,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what mine is. Nobody gave me that one, that direction. I'm sorry to cut you off. I
oh,
just
you
want to
good?
make sure that everybody can see it on
What's up,
here.
Troy?
But you have a listener on here, Troy Stephen Carpenter Graham. Make sure I had it right. He said in 1972 there were 300 plus murders in Baltimore. Also in 1992, this is